It all started with a simple notification, a fleeting moment of digital static that I was never meant to see. I hadn't even planned to check my phone. It had glitched while I was paying for my morning coffee, flickering in and out of control. And then, just for a few seconds, a strange app surfaced on my screen, one I didn't recognize, one I was certain I had never installed. Location sharing active. It blinked before vanishing, as if it had never been there at all. Those 5 seconds changed everything. That night, after she had fallen asleep, I lay beside her, phone in hand, the soft glow illuminating her face in the darkness. I navigated through my hidden apps, searching for something, anything, that could explain what I had seen earlier, and then I found it. Disguised as an innocuous system utility, the tracking program had been monitoring my every move for the past 8 months. Every coffee shop, every client meeting, every supposed moment of solitude. She had seen it all, in real time. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through the app's history. It had recorded every stop I made, noting whenever I remained stationary for more than 15 minutes. It tracked my speed, distinguishing when I was walking, driving, or sitting still. There was even a heat map, color dots marking my most frequented locations, precise down to the coordinates. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a pattern, a set of data points. A digital ghost she had been following in the shadows. Why are you still awake? Her voice cut through the silence, startling me. I locked my phone instinctively, heart pounding, just checking emails. I lied, the words bitter on my tongue. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her secret surveillance had turned me into a liar. The next morning, over breakfast, I decided to push, to test the boundaries of her deception. I'm going out of town for work, I said casually, watching for any sign of unease. Her eyes flickered to her phone before she responded, fingers twitching slightly, as if resisting the urge to check the app. For how long? Not sure yet. I replied, studying her face. I saw it then, the telltale moment of hesitation, the subtle tightening of her jaw, the war between pretending to be unconcerned and the obsessive need to know exactly where I was at all times. Why do you need to know my exact whereabouts every second? Her expression faltered. What's that supposed to mean? I slid my phone across the table. The tracking app was open on the screen. 8 months, I said quietly. You've been following me for 8 months. She didn't deny it, didn't even try. It's for your safety, she whispered. I worry about you. You don't trust me, I corrected. There's a difference. You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly, I interrupted, pushing my chair back abruptly. You've turned our marriage into a surveillance operation. I needed air. I needed space. This wasn't love. This was control. As I stepped out the door, I felt her gaze on me, and for the first time, I was acutely aware of the weight of my phone in my pocket, a digital leash, held tightly in her grip. But something inside me shifted. If she wanted to track me so badly, I'd give her a real challenge. I wasn't going to confront her again. I wasn't going to beg for privacy. I wasn't going to smash my phone in some dramatic act of rebellion. No, I was going to do something far more effective. I was going to disappear completely from her digital radar, and she would never see it coming. The digital world offers endless ways to be tracked, but just as many ways to vanish. That afternoon, I spent my lunch break at the public library, using their computers instead of my own. No logins, no digital footprints. My search history filled with terms like GPS spoofing, location privacy, and counter-surveillance techniques. Every article opened new possibilities. By evening, I had a plan. I purchased a burner phone with cash from a convenience store downtown. The clerk barely looked up as I paid. No ID, no questions. Step 1 complete. Next, a second-hand laptop from a pawn shop. Wiped clean and ready for a fresh start. I stashed both inside a gym locker, at a place she never visited. Meanwhile, I maintained the illusion of normalcy. I went to work. I came home on time. I smiled through dinner. I watched her check her phone throughout the evening, that small, satisfied nod when she saw that I was exactly where I should be. She still thought she was in control. Perfect, My first test was simple. During lunch, I left my phone on my desk and took a 20-minute walk. When I returned, 3 missed calls and 7 increasingly frantic texts awaited me. Asterisk, are you okay? Asterisk, asterisk, why aren't you moving? Asterisk, asterisk, please answer me. Asterisk, I call her immediately. Everything's fine, I said smoothly. What's wrong? Nothing, she lied. Just checking in. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't just monitoring me. She was obsessively tracking me in real time. The realization sent a cold chill down my spine, but it also solidified my resolve. The next day, I ran another test. A GPS spoofing app on my work phone made it appear as though I was moving between my office and the conference room, even when I was somewhere else entirely. That evening, she made an offhand remark. Busy day, she mused. Seemed like you were all over the office. I smiled. You have no idea. By the weekend, my preparations were nearly complete. She needed to believe her tracking system was still working, while I quietly dismantled it. I bought a second spoofer, one that could make my phone appear stationary while I moved freely. Heading to the hardware store, I announced casually on Sunday. She barely looked up. Need anything? Just browsing. I knew she would check. She would watch as my location moved to the store, lingered, then returned home. Meanwhile, I was miles away, setting up a temporary base in a cash-paid motel. That night, as we lay in bed, she scrolled through her phone with a small, smug smile. She thought she still controlled the game. She didn't realize I had rewritten the rules. Monday morning, I kissed her goodbye, the same routine we had followed for years. But today was different. Today, I would disappear. I drove to work as usual, my phone tracking my movements faithfully. Once at my desk, I activated the spoofer, leaving my phone connected to my charger. To her, I would appear to be in the office all day, moving occasionally between rooms. Meanwhile, with my burner phone in my pocket and a baseball cap pulled low, I slipped out the side entrance. No cameras there. I had checked weeks ago. The moment I stepped off the grid, adrenaline surged through me. A rush of fear. A rush of freedom. For the first time in 8 months, I was truly invisible. For the first time in months, I felt exhilaration, pure, unfiltered freedom. I moved through the world untracked, unwatched, truly invisible. No digital chains binding me. No watchful eyes following my every move. I took a bus across town, paying in cash, leaving no trace of my journey. At a quiet diner I had never stepped foot in before, I ordered lunch, anonymity making every bite taste richer. Afterward, I walked to the motel where I had secured a room, my temporary headquarters for what was to come. Inside, everything I needed was neatly arranged. A laptop, a prepaid Wi-Fi hotspot, and a small collection of clothes. My burner phone sat on the bedside table, completely disconnected from any of my usual accounts. No links to my name, no connections to my past life. From this shadowy sanctuary, I was ready to turn the tables. The watcher was about to become the watched. Using a newly created temporary email account, I set up a profile on the same tracking service she used. Then, with deliberate precision, I did what she never expected. I began tracking her. At noon, her movements on the app became erratic. Normally, she remained in her home office during work hours. But today was different. She was restless. Her that moved unpredictably within the house before she abruptly left, driving straight to my workplace. I watched as she circled the parking lot, no doubt confirming my car was still there. Then, just as quickly, she returned home. She had no idea that the power dynamic had shifted. By mid-afternoon, she was checking my location every few minutes instead of her usual hourly routine. The tracking app showed her making repeated attempts to verify my whereabouts. Then she called my work phone, twice, but my desk was empty. Her increasing desperation played out in real time on the screen before me. At around 4 p.m., her location appeared back at my office. I could almost picture her wandering through the corridors, phone in hand, searching for me. Her app insisted I was mere meters away, yet I was nowhere to be found. My digital ghost was working perfectly, keeping her chasing shadows while I observed from the sidelines. At 6 p.m., she finally returned home. 7 missed calls to my personal phone went unanswered. On the tracking app, I saw her pacing in the living room, probably staring at her screen in disbelief. Mind, representing the man she thought she controlled, remained stubbornly at my office. The spoofer was set to maintain the illusion until midnight, when it would simulate my drive home. By that time, I would be watching her reaction from across town, savoring the unfamiliar but intoxicating feeling of being completely untraceable. But this wasn't just about escape. This was about reclaiming power in a relationship that had slowly turned into a digital prison. That night, as I lay on the stiff motel bed staring at the ceiling, I felt a mixture of triumph and hollowness. I had won this round, but what came next? Tomorrow, I would take things a step further. Tomorrow, she would understand what it truly meant when the watch decided to disappear. By morning, chaos had erupted. The spoofer had executed my midnight return home flawlessly, then faked my usual 6 a.m. departure for work. But in reality, I remained in my motel sanctuary, watching her unravel in real time. Heard that bounce across town, from my office building to the coffee shop I frequented, then to the gym, then back home. She was searching for me, physically chasing the ghost my device had created. Her mind must have been tearing itself apart. Her eyes told her I was gone. Her precious tracking app insisted otherwise. Then the inevitable escalation. My burner phone buzzed with notifications from my temporary email. She was reaching out to my friends and colleagues in mounting panic. Asterisk, have you seen him today? Asterisk, asterisk, when did you last speak with him? Asterisk, asterisk, please call me immediately if he contacts you. Asterisk, the digital net was widening. Her desperation was growing. By noon, she called the police. I watched as her location remained at the local precinct for nearly an hour. I could imagine the conversation. Asterisk, my husband is missing. Asterisk, asterisk, ma'am, his phone shows he's at work. Asterisk, asterisk, but he's not there. I went there. He's nowhere. Asterisk, asterisk, has it been 24 hours? Asterisk, her fears dismissed. The system wasn't built for digital ghosts. By 2 p.m., she did something unexpected. That appeared at a mobile phone store. Clever. She was seeking technical help, trying to figure out if the tracking app had malfunctioned. I almost laughed at the thought of her explaining to a teenage clerk that she had been secretly tracking her husband's every move. Then, the first crack in the system. My primary phone, the one still spoofing my office location, suddenly went offline. She must have triggered some remote kill switch. The game was evolving. Using my burner phone, I called my office voicemail. 3 messages from her, increasingly frantic. 2 from co-workers concerned. 1 from the police, formally asking me to contact them. Everything was unfolding exactly as I had planned. That evening, Hurt remained at home. Through public social media, I saw the digital echoes of her distress. Carefully worded posts asking if anyone had seen me, careful not to reveal the full extent of her surveillance obsession. I had become the watcher now, tracking her movements just as she had tracked mine. But unlike her, I had no intention of continuing this cycle. Tomorrow would mark 3 days since my disappearance. Long enough to make my point. Not long enough to cause irreparable harm. I composed a simple message on my burner phone. Asterisk, home at 7. We need to talk. Asterisk, no traceable location. No details. Just enough to make her wait. Then I disconnected the spoofer and let my work phone die completely. No more digital ghosts. If she wanted answers, she would have to face me in person. At precisely 7 p.m., I pulled into the driveway. A curtain twitched. She had been waiting. I sat in the car for a full minute, steadying myself. This conversation would determine everything. When I opened the front door, she rushed toward me, emotions flickering across her face. Relief, anger, confusion, fear. Asterisk, where have you been? Asterisk, she demanded, voice breaking. Asterisk, I thought you were dead. Asterisk, I placed my phones on the coffee table, both the track one and my burner. I've been free, I said simply. Her eyes darted between the devices. Asterisk, what is this? What game are you playing? Asterisk, asterisk, no game, just a demonstration. Asterisk, I turned the screen toward her, showing her own tracked movements over the past 3 days. Her face drained of color. Asterisk, you tracked me? Asterisk, asterisk, now you understand. Asterisk, she collapsed onto the couch. Asterisk, I never meant to hurt you. I was just so afraid of losing you. Asterisk, asterisk, by controlling me, you guaranteed exactly that outcome. Asterisk, for the first time in years, we truly talked. About boundaries, about trust, about the fundamental right to privacy. Even in love, by dawn, we reached an agreement. The tracking apps deleted, a commitment to therapy, a 3-month separation to figure out what we really wanted. As I packed my suitcase, she hesitated. Asterisk, how did you do it? How did you make your phone look like you were somewhere you weren't? Asterisk, I almost told her. Then I stopped. Some secrets are worth keeping. Not as weapons, but as reminders that true freedom is always within reach. Magic, I said with a small smile. Asterisk, just a little technological magic. Asterisk, and with that, I walked out, not as a man fleeing surveillance, but as one who had reclaimed his autonomy. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain. I would never again be reduced to a dot on someone else's screen.